welcome to Mentality Meets, part of the Mindshift Forum 2022. Conversations that explore mental health stories and strategies to help leaders like you change the culture of mental health in your workplace. I'm Peter Larkham, mental health instructor and expert, and your host for today. This year our theme is hope. What is it? What does it look like? And where do we go to find it? Today I'm talking with Larry Meyler, and in this session Larry discusses mental health triggers and the depth that it took him in the past. We explore whether there is a specific turning point that can ignite hope for recovery. Also, how friends and other people's families can aid recovery, and words of hope for those who are supporting people who are struggling at the moment. Now, if you'd like to join the Mindshift Forum for 2022, please sign up and take the Hope Assessment at www.peterlarkham.com and find the Mindshift Forum tab. For those watching on YouTube, please like the video, leave a comment and hit the subscribe button to get all the latest content to help you with your mental health journey. Let's not wait any longer. Here's my conversation with Larry Meyler.
So my name's Larry. I'm an author, mental health advocate.
And Larry, what has been your history in relation to mental health and mental health illnesses? What's your experience been? And can you remember when was your first episode of mental health issues and mental health illnesses?
It goes way back to when I was about 6 years old. Actually, it was when my mum died. So my mum passed away when I was 6. And it was just me and my dad then. So it was a pretty turbulent time. My dad was left with a little boy, and he was lost himself. He was heartbroken, and I was heartbroken, and it was just a bit of a whirlwind, chaotic time. And I just remember being in the graveyard. I have this vision of being in the graveyard, and this huge kind of almost cloud/balloon coming over the graveyard and engulfing me and the graveyard. But it was really weird because it was like a massive anxiety inducing moment, but it was also it was to do with money debt. So I didn't really understand it because I was only a kid, and for a kid to be worrying about money and finance and stuff like that, didn't make any sense to me. But it was really just kind of this all consuming anxiety, a huge bubble of anxiety that came over me, and that's where it all stemmed from. Really, that's where it started, and that's where I would say I have OCD traits started as well back then. So yeah, it was a lot for a little boy, to get his head round and stuff. So it definitely started then.
As you talk about the anxiety that was building and the obsessive compulsive traits, for people who have never experienced anything like it, what I want to try and do during the Mentality Meets is to just begin to give examples, real life examples. And can you kind of think of anything specific that you were doing in your behaviour or in the patterns of thought that were clicking around at that time that began to help you realise that you weren't in an okay place?
Well, I mean, being so young, I really didn't understand. I couldn't tell anybody about it because they'd think I was weird, or they'd think, I was a bit of a freak or whatever it might be. I think it's a good thing to be weird, actually. Just put that in there. You got to own your weirdness. But yeah, I mean, my dad used to take me around on his bike a lot. And I was kind of affectionately known as like poor Larry. We were literally like, if I could put it into like a visual, Fagin and the Artful Dodger. That was kind of me and my dad. He was a lot older than me as well. There was a 46-year age gap between us. So but I remember he used to take me around on his bike, and if I saw a sign, I would have to read every word on the sign, or else something bad would happen. And that was the thread through the whole thing. If I didn't do this, something bad is going to happen. So it was a constant repetitiveness or whatever it may be. That would kick in, and I'd have to do it, or else like something bad would happen. And that stems from my mum dying. So I thought that was the big catalyst. That was the big bad thing that happened, and then something else just as bad was going to happen if I didn't do these things that my anxieties were telling me I had to do.
Wow, I can imagine certainly kind of as a kid, but actually any age, when you get those overwhelming thoughts that if I don't do this, then that catastrophizing feeling and that catastrophizing process. And what I'm hearing is that the link for you was that if you didn't do it, somebody close to you would die. And it was that kind of fundamental fear going on in the background.
Yeah. And I mean, like I say, it was a lot for a little boy to kind of be dealing with in my own head and not understanding it as well. You know, nobody talked about anything to do with mental health when I was that age. You know, plus I was too young as well. But I don't think you can ever be too young to talk about these things now. You know, I think it's important for parents to talk to their kids. My friends are amazing with their kids. They bring them up to be such open individuals and caring and sharing, and it's really important that they live like that. So yeah, I didn't have that, I suppose, but yeah, I do think it's important to get that in at an early age so people don't feel isolated and alone or, you know, a bit messed up in the head.
Oh wow. I mean, one of the things that kind of instantly comes to my mind is kind of were you offered any kind of grief counselling, or was there any provision through school? But like you say, kind of you just felt like you weren't able to talk about it at all. And was anything ever kind of offered to you as kind of some way of being able to talk through these processes? Because I mean, I don't want to kind of ask how old you are, because that's one of those things, but how many years back are we talking now in the context of kind of the schooling process, but also just our general understanding of mental health? Are we talking 10, 20, 30, 50, 90 years, Larry? How old? No, don't tell me how old you are.
90. Oh God. I thought this ring light was helping. No, well, I'm 42 now, so I was like 6 when this all began. So you do the maths on that one. What is that? Yeah.
About 31 years.
Years. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I don't remember anything being offered to me in terms of, especially definitely not grief counselling or anything like that. I don't remember. It was just such a chaotic time. It was very hard. I was just dealing with being around my dad and not having my mum. And my dad's coping mechanism was to drink. So like that in itself brought a hell of a lot more chaos and a whole nother layer of anguish and, you know, pain, because he was in pain, you know, and I don't excuse his drinking because he had choices, you know, but he didn't, the tools he had, he didn't know what else to do. And it was obviously a very common thing as well of men of that generation, and being Irish, drinking is kind of a, you know, the fun thing, and it's just acceptable and stuff. But actually, like there is a really dark side to it, as everybody knows. But, you know, that's sometimes brushed off with just the jolly Irish kind of thing. And, you know, oh, he's a laugh in the pub and stuff like that. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I've gone off on one there. What was the
not at all. Because in the context of what we're there talking about is that we're talking about a 6-year-old boy having experienced a bereavement and a really close fundamental death in the family. Dad taking on the responsibilities and doing his best with the tools that he'd been given. I love the fact that he said the tools, with the tools that he was given. And sometimes we are not given great tools, you know, and kind of one of the ways that he was coping with it was through drinking, which we know, as you say, has a darker side to it as well. But I mean, because from the age of 6, how long was this kind of episode of this repetitive behaviour and these anxieties? And is it something that you feel like you've ever come out of, or has it always been there as a lingering process in the background?
No, it's always been there. I mean, like, this is how I describe it. When I got to grips with my depression a few years back, my anxiety went through the roof. And that was a whole nother ball game that I'd been focusing on the depression side of it, like, you know, getting a diagnosis and putting things in place to make that better. And then also dealing with my own past and my own internal battles as well on top of that. And then, so yeah, it's always been there. OCD, I've never actually been diagnosed with OCD, but I know I have it and suffer from it because I live it, you know, but that's got a lot better. In recent years, it's all got a lot better because I've really put in the work to kind of understand myself and to learn about, you know, mental health, and to do counselling and to do CBT therapy and to do all sorts of different things, just to learn and have knowledge and to build a toolbox, you know, that I can dip in and out of and and it can lessen the severity of and the length of time of these kind of, especially anxiety kind of periods. It's a long road to get to where I am now, but I still deal with it daily. You know, it's a daily thing, and I don't think it'll ever go away. But I've never really been one to accept. I've accepted that it's part of me and it's there, but I don't accept it. You know, I don't just lay down and die and just do what it wants me to do, which is crumble and to be a slave to it. So I acknowledge it, and through acknowledgement, I think you can really then deal with things. You can really like have more self-awareness. You can put things in place, like I said, to make things better for yourself. But you have to put that work in. You have to make the choices to not be, you know, left by the wayside by these things and let them control your life. Because I really think like it is achievable to get to a better place. You just have to have faith in yourself to do that, you know?
Wow. Yes, I agree. But it's so easy to say and so difficult to do, isn't it? And difficult to live.
That's the thing.
I mean, so going back to timelines, because as you say, it's never really left. It's always been there. But what you are actively doing now is I want to use the word fighting against it, because I think there is a fight. And we can go, oh, hang on, fighting, violent, don't. But there is something about needing to meet it with an aggressive energy, if you like, that you're not going to let it take over. And I want to kind of jump from the age of kind of 6 when this kind of started to, let's go for 18 to 20 in the context of what would be A-levels / kind of university time frame. What was happening?
What's that?
what was happening in the context of your life, and how was your mental health impacting on you in those kind of later teen years?
Yeah, my teen years, my friends were my saviors in my teen years. My friends back home, they were my world. If I didn't have them, I would have been so lost. And also from an early age as well, a lot of families kind of, there was a lot of mother figures around for me, if that makes sense, like neighbors or friends' mums and stuff. I was always kind of seen as like poor Larry kind of thing, as I said. So, you know, I'd always go around with friends for dinners because my dad, bless him, he tried, but his cooking was pretty bad. But, you know, he tried and we never went without stuff or anything. But yeah, I'd always be so delighted to be able to go to a friend's and to be a mum there and have a dinner like with in a family environment. But yeah, my teen years, like I always had a weird anxiety around families as well. I'm just not very good at it, and I'm still not the best. Like my friends all laugh at me when I go around there as I'm straight in the fridge, or my cousins as well. I'm straight in the fridge, and I'm just like always like, you know, it goes back to when I was a kid, you know, always looking for, you know, if we had a good meal, like you take it and you like, you know, you appreciate it kind of thing. So yeah, I guess when I go around my friends and stuff now, I'm still a little bit anxious around families, and I'm just a bit awkward. But I think I'm a bit awkward anyway as a person.
Mental ill health costs UK employers around £1,700 per team member each year. That's a staggering £45 billion every year. Despite a general awareness that mental health is more of a problem than ever, most people have no idea what to do. This is where we can help. Mentality is a 1-hour video course equipping your staff to spot the signs of poor mental health and take action. Invest in your people, from the cleaner to the CEO, because every person, whoever they are, can be affected.
No, I love it because it's so easy to forget the impact that other people can have on you. I mean, I've got 3 boys, so I've got a 9, 6, and 4-year-old, and I forget the impact that they have on their friends, but also because of lockdown, I've kind of got out of the habit of inviting people over for dinner. It's like, hey, do you want to invite a friend over this week? It kind of got out of our habit, but the strength of kind of potentially me and my family unit being to other children, in full honesty, I am so focused on, right, how do I support the dads and the parents of these young people? I kind of forgot about encouraging my kids to invite people in, and for our family to be a place of safety and a place of strength and support.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly insightful.
It was so it was so important to me. It was a massive, it's when I look back, it was in such chaotic times with my dad, who I love very much, and he loved me very much, and he did his best. And he was a great guy, a great man, hilarious guy, you know. But like, it was chaos for me as a little boy because I was missing my mom. I wanted her back. I had to deal with my dad and his drinking, aggression, and all the rest of it. And then I had to deal with just feeling so lost all the time and all these things happening in my head, and I didn't understand it. And then, so my teenage years, I basically got kicked out of school at 15. So I always laugh about it. Like, I'd be doing, as soon as I could take over the finances from my dad, I did. So I'd be off in the laundrette doing our washing and getting the shopping and doing all these things while everyone else is in school doing their exams, and I'm off doing this stuff. But so I grew up pretty quickly, I think, in that respect. And then I left Wexford, where I'm from in Ireland, at 17. So I tried to leave before that, but it didn't work out. So I'm back, but I did leave at 17, which again is, you know, I put myself in a situation where I've come to this, I moved to London. So I was in this major city from a small town and trying to just like find my way. And thankfully I have my cousins here. So they were a big support to me, especially my cousin Michelle, who I lived with for a little while. And then I went off into the big city by the time I was 18, moved out of there, and was just kind of trying to find a way, really. But I've always had this determination in me to not accept the hand I've been dealt. And this is what I talk about a lot, especially if I do school talks and stuff. I always talk about how important determination is, because we all have it. You just got to fuel it. So you got to find a way to fuel your determination. And that comes down to mental health as well. You got to use your determination to fight on through it and to understand it and to find ways to, you know, be the master of your own mind, basically, because it can all too, I've seen it so many times, family members, friends who just couldn't cope with it and took their own lives. And, you know, and I was at that point as well. So, and I didn't do it. So me not doing that, I had to find a purpose to share this message. And my purpose is to share this message and to try and help other people that are going through similar, you know. Yeah, so that's kind of my teenage years. I suppose I was, a bit of a mess, but a determined mess.
The thing is, though, is for me, this again kind of is hindsight. So I don't know kind of what you know about me. So I spent from 1997 through to 2000 and kind of constantly kind of doing youth work. And so youth work is my entire background as supporting young people. And what you've just talked about is the classic, it makes sense. You know, it's so easy to kind of look at a young person or look at someone who's going through a rough time, whose, let's face it, behaviour can be completely chaotic. And you can either kind of come to that judgment place of, oh, we need to sort that young person out, or you can come from a complete compassion, empathy space and go, hang on, let's try and understand this, rather than constantly trying to discipline it. And actually, when you put the hindsight in place, it gets you to a place going, of course you would be like that, because everything else has been completely chaotic. There is no other route that it could have taken. And what I love is that you're saying that there is an internal perspective that is saying, I'm not going to accept the hand that I've been dealt, and I'm gonna push my way through it. And that brings me to a question of kind of, do you remember kind of how old you were or where you were when you were first given a diagnosis? And I want to say diagnosis like this deliberately because I want to explore another question off the back of this. But do you remember kind of when that diagnosis came for you, and what impact did it have? Was it a positive impact, or was it a little bit of a negative kind of kickback for you?
No, it was a totally positive experience, because I'd been to the doctor like 3 times, one time in a real bad state, then okay, and then kind of feeling in a real bad state again, basically. So I'd got been to the doctor. She'd seen me in different states, basically. And she then gave me the diagnosis of depression. And that was the first time I'd ever had a diagnosis like that. And it was like, it gave me an opponent to, it was like visualization is a huge thing I talk about as well, especially in my books. So I could basically see it as like a boxing ring, basically, simple as that. And I had an opponent there to fight now. You know what I mean? It stops you from thinking you're going mad. Because when you're trying to self-diagnose things as well, you can end up going around in circles in your head. And you've got all these voices as well also telling you that you're nothing, you're not worth it, give up, blah, blah, blah. That's what anxiety and depression's purpose is to just make you feel like utter shite. You know what I mean? And, oh, sorry. And first swear, oops, could be worse, sorry. But yeah, you know, they're not here to help us, depression and anxiety and OCD and any of the conditions. They're not here to be our friend and they're not here to help us. Their purpose is to basically bring you down, make you feel like shit and stop you in your tracks from progressing in life. You know, they want you to just keel over and die. And like, I just refused to do that. But yeah, the diagnosis was really important. So yeah, and then I could address it in a different way. I could look at different options of counseling. I could look at, you know, what options are available. And there is a lot of options available out there. You know what I mean? You don't, and there's cost wise as well. I know it can be expensive to go see a counselor and stuff like that, but there is other options, you know, through the NHS and charities and support groups and stuff. So yeah.
So how old were you then, Larry?
35-ish.
Gosh, so we're talking pretty much 30 years of experiencing it without a formal diagnosis and something that you are or were living with consistently. It was ebbing and flowing, but it, like you say, it was always been there.
It was always there, yeah. And it was just like my 20s. I just drank as well, like, and that was something that really I never expected to have an issue with drink. But in my 20s, I kind of did binge drink to forget. Out of loneliness, out of pain, out of whatever it was, I was living for the weekends or nights out or whatever it might be. And don't get me wrong, I had great times a lot of the times and stuff. But you know, it was just fueling the fire of anxiety and depression and all the rest of it inside of me. So now I'm very aware of, like, you know, I still get too drunk sometimes, like we all do, but I don't beat myself up as much as I used to about it and stuff. And that's another thing, you know, beating yourself up. I was horrendous at that. I would always be beating myself up about something. But yeah, so yeah, that was it was to have the diagnosis was really important to me. So I think it would be for anybody. Yeah. I think how you see it is, you can't see it as a negative thing because it's only going to give you clarity. So you've got to see it as a positive thing and you know, use it to get up off your knees and to go forward.
Yes. And the reason why I wanted to come the diagnosis is because there is so much self-diagnosis out there.
Yeah.
Which, from my perspective as a mental health trainer, is a really dangerous place to be. And the way I try and explain it, and I'd love to hear whether you think this is a good way of explaining it or not, but the way I try and explain it is you would never say to a friend, oh, those symptoms sound really bad. You know what? You better not go to the doctor just in case they give you a diagnosis of cancer. Don't do it. You're like, what? And our immediate thought is, no, get to the doctor as quickly as possible, because the quicker you get the diagnosis and the quicker you get the treatment and the resources and the care and everything else that's available to you, then we're more likely to beat it. And yet with mental health, we've got this underlying mindset that says, you don't want to go to the doctor because you might get a diagnosis and you don't want that. And what you're saying is that actually it's the diagnosis that gave you the opponent and gave you the boxing gloves and allowed you to go, right, now I can beat you.
Yeah.
I know what you are, I know how you work, and I know what I need to do to get the better of you. Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, I gave myself a chance. I was so, back then when I got that diagnosis, I was just literally, I was on my knees. Like I said, I was so lost. I was so hurting. I just felt something had to give or I would end up killing myself. And what I did do then is I gave up everything and I went traveling around the world. So I just decided I needed to just go and do something and change my situation and, put positive actions into play, because, it's not going to come to me. I'm not going to magically heal this myself, by doing nothing. So I needed to do something drastic.
I find that so powerful, Larry, because literally this weekend I've been toying with gardening, actually, and I'm not much of a gardener, but I was kind of listening to a talk, and they were talking about when something isn't growing properly, and do you uproot it and get rid of it, or do you dig around it, fertilise it, water it, care for it, and give it a bit more time? And it was this kind of thing of, and the question that came out from it was, what are you fertilising? What are you doing differently to change things rather than doing nothing and expecting everything to change?
Yeah, or doing the same old thing.
Exactly.
Not getting any other result. Yeah.
I mean, so kind of January, February, prime time of the year where we all go, oh, let's kind of have this for our future. Let's kind of move this. And we don't allow the new food, the new fertilizer, the new way of doing things to really bed in, so as we can start appreciating this new way of living, new way of processing information, or fighting against our situation in a more positive way, to see things change. And I think it's so sad that actually we just expect things to change without really doing anything in our lives to change it. And from what I hear in the conversation you're saying is that you literally changed everything. You left and were like, right, what do I need to do? And I want to begin to ask, the whole journey of this is about hope and hope for the future. And I know that you've written a couple of books, and I want to know what fueled that process for you, in the context of ditching life, going away, traveling the world. What clicked in your head that was like, right, this is what I'm going to do, this is what my passion is, in fighting kind of mental health illnesses and raising awareness and all that stuff?
Well, I mean, by giving myself a chance, really, I was like, well, what am I here for? Why am I going through all this? And like, the funny thing is, like, I'm quite a private person. He says after writing a book about himself, but like, I was always going to be the strong one for my friends, that they come to, and I'd be the problem solver or whatever it may be, and the strong friend. But then it got to the point where I had to just open up. And once I let the floodgates open, it's just been flowing wildly ever since. And it's the best thing I could have done, actually, is open up and be vulnerable and share how I'm feeling inside, to lessen the power of it inside. It takes away its power if you share it and you get it out. Because if you keep all these things in your head, we see what happens to people, you know what I mean? And yeah, so I basically, I think sharing and getting everything out is a really powerful thing to do. So yeah, that's why I wanted to write the books, because I just wanted to share my story, because I wished I had known someone else that was going through that at the time. Or I could have read a story, or I could have just read anything or seen something on TV or whatever it may be, but just something to help me not feel so alone in it. So the reason I share my experiences and journey is because I don't want people to feel alone who are going through similar. And I'm like, I'm probably the least unlikely author there is. I was kicked out of school at 15. I have no academic qualifications. I can't even type. I did the whole first book on my iPad, like, not kind of Jessica Fletcher style, but like, I was like, yeah. Well, I still, again, I refused to. I was like, well, if I can do it, I can do this. Why can't I do this? If someone's done it before, I can do it. You know what I mean? So I've never put any limitations on myself. And I think people should kind of not put limitations on themselves, because people do that all the time. And then fear creeps in, and fear is what crushes hope, I think, as well. And it is fearful. Fear is a natural thing to feel, because all these things are scary. You're finding out about yourself. It's scary to get a mental health diagnosis. So, but as years are going on, it's getting more and more less stigmatized. And I know people use that word a lot, but it really is. The more we talk about it, the more it's visually in front of us on Instagram, on Facebook, on TV, on whatever it may be. It takes away that embarrassment and that awkwardness to get these diagnoses and to like help yourself, basically. Yeah.
And your second book has just launched. What is it, and why should people who are listening to this look at that, he's got it right here. So the mindset, what? So put it up and let's have a look. So the Mindset Handbook.
The Mindset Handbook. Yeah, so it's called Little Nuggets for Mental Evolution. It's so it's basically, I released my first book, Being Brave, just about 4.5 years ago. And on the back of that, I was actually invited to be part of another book called The Book of Hope, which you know about, with Johnny Benjamin. And this is
where I then kind of put my little book up.
Oh, so this
is the inspiration
Johnny and Brit,
of you. You've been in this,
I've been in that book, So Johnny and Brit put that together, and I was honoured to be part of it. So then, my third project is the Mindset Handbook, and it's basically me sharing. It's 10 chapters, 100 pages. So it's not a big, long book, really, but it's just something I wanted people to be able to pick up and resonate with if they like it, and then be able to go back to it and read again and again if something in it inspires them or helps them to understand their own journey a little bit better. But so I talk about, there's various different subjects that we all go through as human beings. So, I've got one in there on comparison, fears and judgments, reactions, visualizations, which I said I talk quite passionately about as well, because I think it's massively important to have those in because so many visualizations around mental health and depression are very bleak. And they need to be bleak for you to explain them to people, to a doctor or to friends or whatever, to make them understand how dark it is in your head and how you are feeling. But I think that's all right in the first instance. But if we continue to tell ourselves or put these dark visualizations in our heads and we're just seeing this, how can you make it any better? So like I totally changed mine on depression. If I can just tell you about that for a sec. Basically, so what I explained was my depression when I was young, the big engulfing black cloud, balloon, ball, whatever you want to call it. I've now changed that up, and basically I see myself, I call it the Mustang Metaphor. So basically I see myself in a shiny yellow Mustang going along the Pacific Coast Highway in California, and I've got the seas on the left of me glistening, the sky is blue, sun is shining, and then I've got my hand on the wheel and I've got my foot on the accelerator, and the depression is still there. I can see it in the rearview mirror, and it does engulf the car at times. It still comes up on me and creeps up, but I have my foot on the accelerator, so I can just push it down, speed forward, and stay in control of it. So that's how I kind of see my depression. That's my little metaphor. So that's one I share in the book. And so I think it's important to have those kind of positive visualizations to really like change the narrative in your head and make it a little bit brighter and a bit more colorful rather than being grey and black and bleak.
The other question for me is how can we encourage more people to go to the doctor and get the right diagnosis and not be afraid of this thing called mental health diagnosis, because so often we can get ourselves in a place where we become so afraid of it that we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to share about it, we don't want it to be out there, because there's this fear that if it's out there, then people will see me differently, they'll treat me differently, and unfortunately there is still that possibility. But it's the context of only when you have a diagnosis of something are you really able to access the treatment and the care and the medication and the support and the mechanisms that are there to try, I'm saying try deliberately, try to encourage a recovery. And the reason I say try is because it's not an exact science. Mental health isn't an exact science, because if it was, then we could simply kind of go, right, here you go, that's it, done, off you go, super. But it's not, and it is so determined by so many different factors that you can't create this kind of silver bullet or this magic pill that says, there you go, done. But there is something within the conscious, subconscious ability within all of us. This is kind of a more to actually fight it and fight it well. And then my question is, do you believe, okay, coming back to the concept of hope, do you, Larry, believe that recovery is possible, real, available to some, the majority, or everybody? That's a tough question, sorry.
No, I think it's available to everybody. I mean, regardless of how much money you have, there's always things you can do to make your day better. And sometimes it's that you have to break it down to day by day, moment by moment. You can go out for a walk. You can go get a cheap train ticket and go to the seaside for the day. You can go have a coffee with a friend. You can do just loads of things to do. There's so many, but you have to ask yourself basically the simple question: do you want it to control you, or do you want to control it? So if you want it to control you, then you're never going to get anywhere with it. But if you want to make the decision to control it, then you got to start putting things into place, in the moment, day by day, little things. And all these little things add up to big things, It can be really daunting, and it can seem like a gigantic task to take control of your mental health. And you've got your mental health, you've got your depression, you've got your anxiety, all telling you that you can't control them and that you will never get better from it. And that, it's dark, but you can, you know what I mean? You just got to put all these little things into place little by little, and you can get there. But it's up to us as individuals to make those choices and try and take the worry of what anybody else thinks about you out of it. It's easier said than done. That, we all worry about sometimes what people are thinking of us, or if we made a wrong impression, or if we said something stupid, or whatever it may be. But yeah, I generally just believe you just got to ignite your little fire and flame of hope inside, and just let it grow, and have faith in yourself that you can get to a better place. And it doesn't have to be always huge diagnoses of depression or anxiety or this or that. Sometimes people just struggle and they just need to take time out, and talking to someone can help with that as well. So don't feel that your story or your journey is not as valid as anybody else's, because it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think my final question,
yeah, fire on.
For the people who are supporting their friends, family members, work colleagues, who are getting to the point of wanting to give up. They're tired. They have been supporting for a period of time. They don't see much, if anything, improving. And is there any word of hope or encouragement that you can give them? And I want to ask if you can avoid that. Just hold on in there, because they are holding on in there. But is there anything that you can encourage them or give them as a word of hope for their future and the future of the person who's experiencing the mental health illness?
Yeah, just basically they have to. People supporting people with mental health issues, I think, are godsends, because they really do. It's priceless. That support from your friends or from whatever degree it may be too. I think it's so priceless, and it really is. I think they just need to step back a moment and have a break themselves, and give themselves a pat on the back, and say well done to themselves, because they really are making a difference, even if it doesn't seem like it at times, and it is a struggle, which it can be a lot of the time. I can be extremely difficult at times, but I'm very self-aware, but I can be a bit of a nightmare myself, and I'm very grateful to have the friends that I have, because they're there for me, regardless, and I try to do the same for them. So I think, yeah, just keep on going and appreciate what you're doing, and appreciate yourself, and appreciate your worth, because it is, like I said, priceless, I think. Yeah.
Brilliant. I think on that note, we should probably wrap this time up together, because I could literally talk all day with you about this, like, there are so many other questions that come to mind. And you know what? I may have to come back to you later on the year and carry this conversation on if you're willing and interested. But I just want to say, Larry, thank you so much for your time and for everything that you've spoken about, and just your insight and wisdom and the encouragement that you've given to everyone listening. I love the idea of being in the ring with depression, putting your gloves on and attacking it. And that no matter how bad the past has been, there is always hope for the future. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mentality Meets, and no matter where you are on your mental health journey, you can find plenty of content and information about our resources at peterlarkham.com, including one of our mental health courses for you or your business. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find our entire back catalogue of conversations with mental health leaders and experts. And if you want to spread the word, drop us a review on the podcast app and share this with your friends. Thanks again for joining us for Mentality Meets, conversations that explore mental health stories and strategies to help leaders like you change the culture of mental health in your workplace.